It usually makes a little sound. Anyway, hello everyone. This is a little update and a general wrap-up for a couple of books that are current for Q1 of Historathon 2025. Okay, so one of them is this. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to be reckless and premature and generally impulsive. It's from my local library. And obviously I'm having a look at it online and thinking, maybe I should get this, maybe not, but it's in the library. So I'm, 60p, I can see what it's all about. And I've read 4 pages of it and I'm going to return it. Or rather, on 4 pages, I wouldn't buy it. On 4 pages, I wouldn't bother reading it. Because there are 3 things in 4 pages that are just not the case. They're not. One of them, it says categorically that the Roman Empire, or the beginnings of the Roman Empire, lay in the 1st century BCE. Drivel. Absolute drivel. Okay, yes. So that was the first one. And the second element is that he says on page 3, on several occasions, internal and external revolts threatened Assyria's hegemony. In Israel and Judah, resistance to Assyria's military interventions resulted in the emergence of new anti-imperial forms of religion, with consequences unforeseen at the time. Really? Judaism is an anti-imperial religion? Is it? Is it really? I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. So if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I don't think it is at all. And the third thing on page 4 is that he says that that Assyria is the first world empire. And it matters, and world history does not begin with the Greeks or Romans, for example. It begins with Assyria. But Assyria's fall was the result of a first world war. The First World War? No, that can't be good. So anyway, the guy just seems bonkers. Where is he? Oh, sorry. Something about he lives in Connecticut anyway. Oh, wait a minute. He's professor of Assyriology in the Department of Near Eastern Languages and Civilizations at Yale. No. Right. So, and the second book is this. This is the volume 1 in the Penguin series of the Penguin History of Europe. And here we are. I don't know. Anyway, it's The Birth of Classical Europe, A History from Troy to Augustine by Price and Thoneman. And there they are. The likely lads on the reverse. But it's very good. Very good indeed. So I'm going to try and answer this or talk about this via my journal notes, as it were, with certain little headings, and see how that works out. Yeah. So, for example, I'm giving it 4.5 stars just to start with. The themes of it are naturally enough. The whole thing is set in the Mediterranean, and it is associated and the associated areas around the Mediterranean to some extent, depending. And its peoples, again, so that includes the Hittites, the Hebrews, the Phoenicians, the Etruscans, as well as the early Minoans, followed by the Mycenaeans, and of course the Greeks. Terrific. So, what do you think of the book? Well, and what will you take away from it? And I would say that overall it's excellent. It's just an excellent book. Presumably it is in reality 5 stars, but since it is really an introduction, I've given it 4.5 from the first 113 pages, which is what I've read so far. We get a terrific idea of things from the Bronze Age down to the beginning of classical Greece that overlaps with earlier reading that I've done for Historathon 2025 very well. There's previous videos very, very recently that looks at things like the Cunliffe book, Europe Between the Oceans. Yeah, there it is. So the next bit is, what was the aim of the book and how well did the author fulfill it? And I think the aim would appear to have been to present an ideal introduction to the period, which is achieved about as well as possible, probably. It is probably thought by some as not maybe funky enough or something, and altogether too learned, much too learned. But that is a tremendous strength, especially given its accessibility. The next bit is, would you recommend this book to others? And yes, I definitely would. Absolutely. Who is the target audience? And again, I think it's going to be something like anyone with a keen enough interest, pretty much. So for a 1-sentence book review, I'd say it's a brilliant presentation in entirely readable form of probably deep scholarship. And final thoughts and notes. There is much evidence of change over time from place to place. There is a remarkable journal of human endeavor on the high seas of the Mediterranean that is brought into high relief. And throughout, there is some examination of the evidence, including an evolving historiography and the latest evidence as recent as 2010, which is when it's published. This is an appreciable element running throughout the text, at least sooner or later. And that evidence, the evidence includes not insignificant material concerning the so-called Sea Peoples and Troy, the famous, and none other than, as well as the upheavals of the late millennium BC and the so-called Dark Ages. The social structures and transformations of society into the Iron Age are very concisely mentioned also. It is all very deft and lulled, easy reading even, but definitely very enlightening. It is an introduction with the usual constraints of space, but for example, the settlement and trade happening in the Atlantic during the Bronze Age is covered very quickly and very, very well from what I can tell, having read the Cunliffe book and Abulafia's The Great Sea. It is better to have read the Cunliffe, naturally enough, but that is what presumably the further reading sections are for in books like this. There is some nice coverage also of the Phoenicians that thereby covers all bases and angles, so to speak. I mean, they do talk about how maybe some books tend to look at things from the Roman or the Greek point of view, and the Greeks are sort of kind of the other lot kind of thing, and don't really kind of, let's turn the tables around and look at it from their point of view as well. And these guys do that to some extent. So, which is pretty cool, obviously. There is discussion of some historical controversy as well. And there is the historic question of who wrote the Iliad. Was it Homer or maybe not? Yeah. There is a remarkably short series of pages that renders the Persian Empire entirely realizable and comprehensible all in one go. Pretty amazing. Throughout all of these pages, there is also language and writing. Again, it is in shorthand, if you will pardon the pun. We don't need to be expert post-grad students to get all this stuff. And there is a lot here in just 113 pages. But it is all seamless and illuminating. We might even forget where the light is coming from. So there's that one. That is my reckoning of it so far. Really nice front cover. I don't know whether you're really getting the colour of that, but it is really nifty and nice thing as well as an object. So yeah, Q1 continues. I've got that. That's my next pick. I don't know whether you can see that. If you can't, it says The Greeks, A Portrait of Self and Others by Paul Cartledge. So yep, and that just about has it. Bye for now.